podcast hosts Gabe and Leo discuss topics that directly and indirectly affect the LGBTQ plus community. Their generation gap has them seeing the world through very different points of view. They fight, they argue, they laugh, and they get off topic. But they make sense. Most of the time. Are you ready for this episode of Let's Talk Trans? Well, let's get started. Alright, it's midweek. Hey, thank goodness, right? I mean, for a lot of us, it's coming up on a Labor Day weekend and a long weekend, but on top of all of that, it is finally the end of August. I don't know about you guys, but this month is like just, it's drug on for me. It's been insane. And I'm now thrilled because we are going into what, they call around here the burn months, because it's September, October, November, December, all they ended. All right, I don't have to explain that part. You're not that bad. But the thing of it is that this is football season. This is sweater season. I can get my hoodies, start getting my hoodies back out. Fall leaves are coming. This is clearly one of my favorite times of year. But the other thing is that the big thing is school is starting back up. Holy cow, you can hear the sirens. Wow. Okay, I swear I don't live in, suburbia, where. I actually live in kind of a quiet neighborhood. That's like the third one to go past. But anyway, school's going back. And the thing of it is that, Leo is going back to school, and my oldest is already at school. And, the it seems like, at least here in PA. Ooh, excuse me. My voice got all weird. Here in PA, it almost seems kind of like the laws have kind of dumbed down a little bit. I don't want to say dumbed down. They've gotten a little bit, quieter. Like the bills haven't been coming up. There's no anti-this, anti-that, at least during the summer months. But I know full well that there's going to be stuff that crops up. Because, as a parent, as an active member of the community, I don't want to say politically active because I'm not, but as an active member of my community, as a person who knows the old boys club and knows the political demographics of my environment, I know that it's only a matter of time. And I know that you adults do too. Again, for those of you who are not adults, you might not be quite as aware, but for those of you who are adults, that, it's that time of year we're starting to step into those environments again where our children become targets, which is sad. We become targets if we're members of the LGBTQ plus community. For those of you who are in countries where maybe you don't have quite as much liberty as we do here, or you have a different level of liberty than we do here, because I can't say... I'm not one of those people who goes, oh yeah, United States, we rock, because I've been in other countries. I know exactly where our level of freedoms lie. And I know that I can say that and that's a freedom because, because I'm, I teach American history and American government, so I know. But anyway, that's actually kind of on topic, believe it or not. You don't have freedom of speech. Zip it. Exactly. Told that dog. No freedom of speech for that dog. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We are going to talk about freedom of speech and freedom of the press, because I was going through the articles, like I said I was going to, and I found a disturbing article out of Nebraska that it hits right on that, talking about freedom of speech, freedom of the press, but it's for a school newspaper. So the question that I'm going to pose today is, does a school newspaper, so a paper distributed by minors, have the same freedoms under the First Amendment? And for those of you who are not aware of the United States Constitution, the First Amendment grants the rights of freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, okay, the freedoms. So the thing of it is does that amendment apply to school newspapers and school journals, or school vlogs, whatever you want to call them at this point, the same way that it applies to the Times Leader or the Citizen's Voice or the New York Bestseller or, again, the New York Times or the Boston Newsletter, which I don't even think exists anymore. History nerd here. The Boston Newsletter was the very first long-standing publication in the colonies before the United States became the United States. Okay, so I'll give you the details on this article. So this is what I found in USA Today, because I always like to go with something a little big. This happened a couple of days ago. It happened on the 27th. Grand Island, Nebraska. So Grand Island, Nebraska, I'm calling y'all out. Okay, the administrators of a Nebraska school shuttered the school's award-winning student newspaper just days after its last edition, and that included articles and editorials on LGBTQ plus issues, leading press freedom advocates to call the move an act of censorship. Absolutely, it's an act of censorship. The question isn't whether or not it's an act of censorship. For me, it's not a question of an act of censorship. For me, it's a question of, does the school have that right? Okay, if the school can ban books, then they have some level of censorship authority. Okay, but here's the thing. So the Northwest Public School has had it's called the Saga newspaper for 54 years. This paper has been in existence in this school for 54 years, and they were informed that the paper was going to be eliminated. The Grand Island Independent reports, that's their local newspaper, I'm guessing. 3 days earlier, the newspaper had printed its June edition, which included an article called Pride and Prejudice, LGBTQIA+. And it was on the origins of Pride Month, the history of homophobia, and I'm sure it went into things that people didn't like. Apparently there was an editorial opposition on the Don't Say Gay Florida law, which we've all had an opinion on. I think everybody's had an opinion on. There are some lessons on sexual orientation, gender identity, things like that. So anyway, so far, it seems like the articles are kind of skirting on that. Nobody wants to be called out as a homophobe, even though they are, but, it is what it is. And I'm going to say this right now because, it is what it is, but you either, the Florida law, Don't Say Gay, there's very few people who are like, ho-hum, whatever, it's none of my business. You're either for it and you agree completely that there's this gay agenda and we're all out to take over the world, or it's a bunch of BS and you know the truth, and so therefore you're opposed. There's I have yet to actually meet somebody who went, what is Don't Say Gay? Yeah, because it just doesn't happen. So anyway, the thing of it is that we don't hear, the article doesn't tell us a lot about what their article, that Pride and Prejudice article went into. It doesn't say. What we do find out is that the school officials reached out to this paper and told them that the school board and the superintendents were unhappy with the latest issue's editorial content, and that's why the school's paper was canceled. It had absolutely nothing to do with the LGBT, well, according to the officials. According to the officials, it had nothing to do with the LGBTQIA+ article. It had everything to do with the editorial on Don't Say Gay in Florida. Okay, so that's according to the school board. That's their words. That's their exact words. But it gets better. It gets so much better than that. Or not so much better, depending on your point of view. All right, so in addition to being canceled, the school newspaper's assistant editor, apparently the school district had a ban on preferred names. It was made by the school board. Now, again, it doesn't say when that ban was put in place, but the school board said, you must go by your legal name. You will not go by a preferred name. No pen names, no nothing. You see where I'm going with this, with the term pen name. All right, for those of you who don't know what a pen name is, it's a name that writers write under, okay, if they're trying to hide their identity. So, this school newspaper has a writer who is transgender, who is a transgender student. All right, the transgender student preferred name is Marcus. Okay, however, the byline, so the line underneath the article, you'll always see it if you ever look at a newspaper. For those of you who don't know what a newspaper is, go to your local grocery store and find one. You'll have the nice big headline, and then underneath in very little letters, it's who actually wrote the article. Okay, that's called the byline. Anyway, Marcus is his preferred name, but someone changed it without his permission. And that decision directly affected him. He said that, the transgender student whose byline was changed against his wishes to his birth name, which I'm not going to dead name him because that's not fair. But needless to say, Marcus didn't have a say and the name was changed. Now, I don't know how long Marcus was on the newspaper or, going by Marcus. Still, okay, that means that whoever changed it, whoever made the decision to change that, outed Marcus to any of those readers. Okay, I'm learning here in Pennsylvania. I learned this last week that we don't have to. That here in PA, there is a law that protects members of the LGBTQ plus community from publishing our names. We don't have to publish our dead names. We don't have to out ourselves to the world. So, is that? I would hope that a similar law would be in place in Nebraska in their state house or state board. So, who thought it was an okay thing to out a student? Who thought it was okay to out a minor, let alone without their parents' consent? I mean, that's dangerous. And more so if this is a red state, which I'm kind of assuming that it is. So, like I said, as far as Marcus was concerned, Marcus took this, them using his dead name as his byline, as the school board basically saying, hey, look, we really don't like you and we really don't want you here. It was huge for him. It was huge psychologically. And as a teacher, I know completely that, the devastation that can do to a student. Like, nobody wants to be somewhere where they're not welcome. You know what I mean? No one wants to be in a house where they're not welcome, in a building or a job or a school where they're not welcome. And Marcus pretty much got told by his school district, in his opinion, that he was not welcome there. Imagine, and I wrote on a school newspaper when I was in high school, and there was a couple of awards. I don't remember them, which sounds horrible, but I had already gotten into the service by the time my parents told me about the awards, so I won't go there. But the thing of it is, imagine being an award-winning author or an award-winning news reporter and then suddenly being told, yeah, you're great, but we don't like you. Or you're great, but we don't like your style. We don't like what you stand for, so you're not okay. You're not welcome here. We don't care that you're a kid. You're not welcome here. That's not right. I'm sorry. To my knowledge, now, please, by all means, prove me wrong. Because I'm always up for information. Legitimate, true information. All right, true information. I don't think I've ever gone to an LGBTQ plus event where a cisgender person or a straight person or a non-LGBTQ member wasn't welcome. I don't think I've ever gone to a gay bar where a straight person wasn't welcome. I don't think I've ever gone to a drag show where a person not in drag wasn't welcome. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way we... I don't say that's not the way we are, because I'm sure that there are people... There's I'm not going to use the word radicals, but yeah, that's what it is. There's radicals in every framework, every nook and cranny of society. You're always going to find them. But the thing of it is that... You know what I mean? I mean, I'm going to say this and it's going to sound horrible, but for some bizarre reason, cisgenders have a monopoly on telling people who aren't like them how wrong they are. I don't know what it is. I could go still one step further, but I'd alienate half the audience, so we're not going to do that. So the school board didn't respond, of course. Some school board members made absolutely no secret that they objected to the LGBTQ content, including the school board's president, who said most people were upset with it. Upset. Oh no, your butt hurt. Your butt hurt. A grown adult is butthurt over an LGBTQ article in a kid's newspaper. Like, I know you guys can't see my facial expressions, but for the love of God. I mean, like, really? And then there were board members that cited pro-LGBTQ editors and direct taxpayers who now are questioning, hey, like, what are we teaching in our school? Well, that's not really any of your concern. If you want to know what's being taught in your school, check out your school's curriculum. Just because a person is pro-LGBTQ or pro-choice or pro-life or pro-bumblebees or pro-dolphins or vegan or vegetarian or carnivore, omnivore, herbivore. I was going to say, diurnal, nocturnal, whatever, But yeah, I mean, like, the school board makes it seem like, this was like kind of crunching on everything, and it was like the school board had this mentality where this was like, it was reflecting the entire school and it was reflecting everybody's opinions. And I'm pretty sure the school actually, or the school, at least paper, I remember ours did, said something like, there was that disclaimer, the views and opinions of this article do not reflect, our school board, our school district, or our town. See, I can remember that one because I had to write it often enough. But the thing of it is, it's horrible. It sounds like this school board, and again, this is the American Civil Liberties Union in Nebraska. Their attorneys getting involved, and it sounds like it was a half-assed, not what the words used, but what I'm going to say, attempt to censor students and discriminate based on a disagreement of perspectives in the article that was featured in the student's newspaper. Again, it's a student's newspaper. We've talked about these numbers before. There are more people under the age of 19, I think it is. Like, there are, if I say like 1 in 5 or 1 in 10, those numbers are shrinking. It's happening more regularly in people who are under the age of 19. That's not saying we're converting and the gay agenda is doing its job. No. What we're saying is that these kids are more comfortable coming out than I was, which is absolutely true. Did I have these thoughts when I was 19? No. Did I question my gender at 19? No. Did I question my gender at 20? Absolutely. At 20 years old is when I started questioning it. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have dared say, hey, look, I'm a guy. I couldn't do it 20 years ago. 10 years ago, yeah, I was considering it. Yes, I had more and more thoughts as I got older. How would it be? What would it be like? What if I did? But there was all those questions. What if I do? Oh my God, I could, my kids will get laughed at. My kids will get made fun of. What if my kids don't like me? What if my family does? Every question I think we've all asked ourselves, and because of that, I didn't do it. Kids don't have those phobias. One, that most of them don't have kids. They don't have to worry about. Yes, absolutely, kids worry about whether their family's going to love them or their parents are going to love them, if their friends are going to make fun of them. Nowadays, they have to worry about whether they're going to get shot at or censored, or whether they're going to get bullied or picked on or beat up or God forbid, worse. Because that's the environment that they live in, or that's the environment we live in. But the thing of this is that this, like I said, this half-assed attempt at censorship. What I mean, like, really? Okay? So the Press Association attorney, who specializes in media law in Nebraska and Kansas, noted that the press's freedom is protected in the United States Constitution. The question is, and again, this comes down to me, again, as a history teacher and somebody who works on American law, the Constitution states, freedom of press. It does not specify whether it's a school press, a legitimate business enterprise press. It just says press. So there's there's a variance between freedom of press, and you can't just write a letter that says all kinds of nasty, mean things and call it the press. It's not. So what defines press? That comes to be the next question. And then again, we have to ask ourselves, does this apply to schools? Does this violate the students' rights to free speech? So, yeah. And the thing of it is and these lawyers are getting involved, and they say the administration really can't do this, and they're violating the students' right to freedom of speech, unless the school can find a legitimate educational reason to remove the opinion. That they're kind of fighting an uphill battle as far as this article goes. But the thing where I stay is do they actually have a right? Do the students actually, are they protected under the freedom of press? Dog says yes. Is the school board right? All right, so here's the thing. Is the school board right? Morally, absolutely not. Morally, that's hands down. The school that school board has absolutely no right. I don't care who gets butt hurt. But the question then remains, legally, are they within their rights? This is one of those times when I really truly wish that Leo would, come out and talk to me, or I wish I had Kai here, or I wish I had this live studio audience where I could come in, or I had people call in. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if people could call in and just kind of voice their opinions and say, oh yes, this, there, no, you're wrong, you're right. Oh my God, I'd love to have my haters right now. I have a few, a little bit, some, kind of, sort of, no, not really. So I'm going to have to ask you guys, when you're listening, if you go on, Facebook or wherever you find us, because we're on Facebook, you got to come on to the podcast and like us on Facebook. We have hundreds of people that like our page on Facebook. If you listen to us on YouTube, make a comment. If you listen to us on Spotify, I think you can make a comment. You can make comments here on Speaker too. Find us. Tell me what you think. Do they have a right? Do they not have a right? Am I blowing smoke on my own butt? All right. While you're doing that, I, of course, went to my websites, my favorite places in the whole wide world, and I went onto a legal website, all right, because, well, it made sense, all right? And it turns out that in 1969, the Supreme Court decision of Tinker versus somebody, because, of course, I wasn't as prepared as I needed to be, Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District. The Supreme Court decided that, it gets even better. It was actually reaffirmed in 1988. Hazelwood School District versus, I could not pronounce that name if I wanted to. All right, defines the level of the First Amendment protects public high school students working in school-sponsored publications are entitled to. All right, the case then followed Landmark 1969. Yeah, okay. The school officials must meet before they can legally censor students' expression under the First Amendment. Okay, so here's the thing. Both of these landmarks say that the school has to meet with the students to discuss the article before they can even consider censoring it. I'm based on what this article talked about, and based on the reaction of the students, and it doesn't sound like they had this kind of meeting. So I think what they're going to end up doing is they're going to end up losing this case. But the thing of it is that does that not mean that they're going to shut them down later on? Are they going to tell them that they can't do these types of things, or what? So yeah, high school press freedom and censorship. The Supreme Court's 1988 decision in the case of Hazelwood School District versus, I still can't pronounce it, Kmeyer. All right, anyway, define the level of First Amendment protection. Defines the level of First Amendment protection for school district. I gotta read. Public high school students working on school-sponsored are entitled to. All right, so it defines the level of it. It doesn't tell us how much. It just defines the level of it. That case was followed up by Landmark 1969 Supreme Court decision, Tinker versus Des Moines. So if I click on this article, if I click on this actual publication, the principal of Hazelwood East High School outside St. Louis, Missouri, censored censored from school student a special teen issue selected teen pregnancy and the impact of divorce on students. Now remember, this is the 80s. This is the 80s when people didn't talk about these things. Members of the student staff sued. The U.S. Supreme Court for the Eastern District of Missouri held the students' First Amendment rights were not violated. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeal reversed the decision previously relied upon. All right, so the Court of Appeal held that the high school-sponsored newspaper produced as part of a class and without a policy or practice established it as a public forum for student expression could be censored where school officials demonstrated a reasonable educational justification and where their censorship was a viewpoint their censorship was viewpoint neutral. All right, so like this case talked earlier, these are huge words. Reasonable educational justification. So I think the thing of it is that so this Hazelwood article, it was a special issue, included articles on teen pregnancy and the impact of divorce on students. So I guess the question is, it doesn't tell us how much it was censored, but the thing of it was, the article wasn't discontinued. It looks like the school paper didn't cease to exist. Where this other school in Nebraska, that's exactly what they did. They shut everything down. So the question then comes up is, I'm talking to my butt now because I didn't read any further ahead, so I'm sorry. So Hazelwood remains one of the most influential student speech cases, greatly expanding schools' control over student speech. So therefore, then the question now is does the school actually have the right to censor them? Now I'm not so sure. I mean, again, it comes down to moral versus legal. Legal, they may. And again, this is because it's a school-sponsored project, so it's a school-sponsored newspaper, therefore it's tried as a class. It may very well... The only way I think that they could get out of seeing it as a class is if the students don't get any credits for it. Like if they sign up for it and it states that it's not a class, then that might be an extracurricular activity. But again, we come down to, praying on football fields and hazing, and I'm not saying that any one is better or worse than the other. They're not all the same. But, schools are their own entities, and unfortunately, sometimes they have some freedoms that the regular world doesn't get. It will be interesting to see how this one falls out. I'm really, really curious about this one now, so I'm going to keep an eye on it for you, and I hope you keep an eye on it too. I still would love your opinions. Do you think that the school board is in the right? Again, morally versus legally. Because, again, sometimes morals and legal... sometimes the moral compass and the legal compass do not always go hand in hand. This is one of those things that we as, again, for those people who live here in the United States, or in any country, okay, don't think that it's just a U.S. thing, but here in the United States, this is one of those things that, we actually have an opportunity where we can say this isn't right. We can petition our senators and our congressmen and our, and say, hey, look, this is not how, it's freedom of press. Freedom of press is freedom of press. Just like me coming on, and doing a podcast twice a week, that's freedom of speech. I'm allowed. There's certain words I can't say, but as long as I stay within those guidelines, I'm okay, right? I mean, on the same breath, though, Uncle Sam is listening, and if I start talking about the KKK or, any of those other, Proud Boys or one of those other things, somebody's going to pick up a flag and go, hey, you need to listen to this. So... See, you still have to know that, somebody's watching, because they're always watching and always listening. And whoever's listening, I hope you're having a good time, because, I'd love to talk about, anyway. I'd love to talk about Trump and his, his files. We won't go there today. The amazing files of Donald Trump. Anyway, on some sad news today, again, for my adults, not necessarily the minions that are listening, or the little ones, the little beaners. Today is the 25th anniversary of the death of the People's Princess, Princess Diana, and up until 9/11, that was probably the biggest, most tragic event for me. I can remember exactly where I was, even to this day. That was 25 years ago. I remember exactly where I was when that happened. I was waiting to go off into the service. It was summer. I graduated already, so I was already working. I was working in a nursing home, and I was working the late night shift, the midnight shift, and I had just passed the TV when it had come on the television that Lady Diana had been into a car accident, and it was 11 something at night. But I know that 5 hours later she'd be dead. I didn't know that then, of course, but I remember standing there like everyone else, covering my mouth, going, "Oh my God." So I remember that one, but that was, like I said, at that point in my life, that was one of the biggest tragedies I'd ever seen, heard, experienced. And I'm not English. I didn't know her. I'm not from Great Britain. I've never been to the UK. Something I do hope to remedy in the next couple of years. But yeah. So anyway, so again, I really, really, really want to see what your opinions are on this, legal versus moral. Freedom of speech, because if a school district can come after that, what's next? Do they start coming after kids who podcast? Do they start coming after their t-shirts? Do they start, can you not wear rainbow socks to school? Because God forbid somebody take offense to that. Somebody get butt over rainbow socks. Yeah, right? My dogs aren't just looking at me like I'm weird now. So anyway, all right, so it is coming up on a holiday weekend. Like I said, it's Labor Day here in the United States. And it's the unofficial start of fall, so I've got lots of plans that I probably won't get done. And Kai will be in, and I'm really, really hoping that I can finagle Kai into talking to me on Sunday night about the LGBTQ plus community at Pennsylvania College of Technology in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and I am truly hoping that she will shed some light and perhaps inspire other colleges or people who listening in that go to other colleges that maybe don't have LGBTQ plus events or support like this college offers. And we'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with all of that, and I hope you had a wonderful night. I enjoyed talking to you. I hope you enjoyed talking to me. My dogs are being weird, as usual. And I hope you have the opportunity to stay cool, enjoy the rest of your week. Don't work too hard. Have some fun. Remember to be yourself because you are beautiful. And stay true to yourself. Joining us on this episode of Let's Talk Trans. We hope you had fun. We know we did. If you like us and you want to hear more, follow us on Facebook. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or Google Podcast, or wherever it is that you get your podcast from. Until next time, stay true to you.